Hello horror fans, I'm Dr. Udru, and today I'll be taking a bite out of 2009's Trick or Treat, so grab your plus-size pillowcase and get ready to, trick or treat. Trick or Treat is a horror anthology comprised of 4 interwoven stories taking place on Halloween night. Things start off with bickering couple Henry and Emma returning home early from a costume party. But when the Halloween-hating Emma attempts to take their decorations down early, she is promptly turned into one by an unseen assailant. Jumping back to an earlier point in the night, we see Principal Wilkins give young Charlie a trick-or-treat pro tip.
Always check your candy.
A little bit later, a group of trick-or-treaters make their way to the local quarry to verify the veracity of a schoolyard urban legend. Meanwhile, a gathering of young adults celebrate the season with a bonfire in the woods, only to be party crashed by a seductive hooded psychopath. And to cap things off, we have old man Mr. Krieg, who is all trick and no treat. Unfortunately for him, one trick-or-treater returns the favor. The story of Trick or Treat begins with director Michael Dougherty's senior thesis film, Season's Greetings. Hand-drawn by Dougherty over a period of 9 months and completed in 1996, the short depicts the antics of an impish, burlap-masked child on Halloween night. The child, named Sam, short for Sawin, was created by Dougherty as a makeshift mascot for Halloween. The director noted that, while Christmas has Santa, Easter has the Easter Bunny, St. Patrick's Day has leprechauns, and Festivus has Jerry Stiller,
Let's rumble!
Halloween doesn't have a singular standout spokesperson, and made Sam a child to reflect the kid-centric spirit of the holiday. After graduating from NYU, Dougherty spent time working as an animator for Nickelodeon on Blue's Clues. Eventually, Dougherty got Season's Greetings into the hands of legendary special effects creator Stan Winston. Impressed by the short, Winston convinced Dougherty to write a spec script, which he did from May to August 2001. Daunted by the task of writing a feature-length story, Dougherty was instead inspired by former anthologies like Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt, and Amazing Stories. While 2 segments were culled from the director's college days, the stories of the murderous Principal Wilkins and the predatory pack of werewolf women, 2 more were written specifically for the film, the tales of the school bus massacre and the Halloween-hating Mr. Krieg. When finished, the script was optioned by Winston with the intention of him producing it. Winston assembled an all-star lineup of filmmakers for the project: George Romero, Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter, and himself. Unfortunately, the script was rejected by major studios, who saw the subject matter as old-fashioned amongst the climate of the teenage slasher film revival. In the meantime, Dougherty went on to co-write one such film with the urban legend sequel Bloody Mary, as well as X-Men 2 and Superman Returns for Bryan Singer. So I guess you could say he went from working with the creator of the Predator to working for an actual Predator. After gaining on-set experience from these productions, Trick or Treat was finally picked up by Superman Returns producers Legendary Pictures, with Dougherty himself set to direct. After Dougherty submitted a package which included concept art by Breen Burns and storyboards by Simeon Wilkins, Trick or Treat was greenlit with a budget of $12 million. Over the years, Dougherty's script went through several title changes, eventually gaining an apostrophe to avoid confusion with the 1986 film of the same name. Throughout 18 drafts, each tale came to represent a different stage of life: a child's introduction to Halloween, the tween years of parentless mischief-making, the sex-obsessed costume parties of young adulthood, and finally, the holiday annoyances of the elderly. Not only that, but throughout Trick or Treat, Dougherty snuck in facts about the origins and traditions of Halloween.
Predating Christianity, the Celtic holiday was celebrated on the one night between autumn and winter when the barrier between the living and the dead was thinnest, and often involved rituals that included human sacrifice.
Segments with the group of kids venturing to the quarry were influenced by both the Goonies and It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown's an asshole!
The prank the kids pull on Rhonda was based on Dougherty's own childhood memories of scaring cheerleaders TPing his house. In an earlier draft, it was revealed that Rhonda was dead the whole time.
Betsy's been dead for 10 years.
Dougherty claims he got this idea from the "she was a mannequin the whole time" reveal of the Twilight Zone episode The After Hours. Due to several films coming out in the interim with a similar twist, the idea was dropped. Convinced by Singer, Doherty subverted convention by taking typically victimized female characters and making them werewolves, imagery the director hadn't seen since The Howling. Sam's attack on Mr. Krieg took influence from the Gremlins' attack on Mrs. Deagle, and yet another Twilight Zone episode, The Invaders. Krieg's bah humbug-like displeasure for Halloween spirit was inspired by Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol, and the interconnectedness of each story was in part inspired by the narrative style of pulp fiction. Trick or Treat was filmed at the former Lionsgate Studios in and around Vancouver, British Columbia in 2006. Since much of the filming took place at night, little people were used to play background trick-or-treaters instead of actual children. As the candy depicted in the film was shown to be tampered with, the production couldn't use brand names. Instead, the design team created several fake wrappers, including one named after producer Peter Lotka. Similarly, the liquor Mr. Krieg is seen drinking is named after cinematographer Glenn McPherson. Extras during the parade scene, which was inspired by New York City's Halloween parade, included participants of Vancouver's Parade of Lost Souls. Charlie's projectile vomit gag was achieved using a hose rig which was digitally painted out, and the vomit itself consisted mainly of chocolate and Caro corn syrup. The performers playing the children on the school bus all had real disfigurements and disabilities, and their costumes were inspired by photos by Diane Arbus depicting disabled children on Halloween, as well as those by Ralph Meatyard showing his friends and family in costume. The shot of the school bus driving into the quarry made use of a life-size bus and a CG matte painting, while a miniature bus was used to show the vehicle sinking. Anna Paquin's shriek upon seeing the hooded vampire was real, as during the take, Doherty screamed at her. The female werewolves were designed by Patrick Tatopoulos, who had previously taken on a similar task with the Underworld series. The striptease transformation scene was originally performed to Fever by Peggy Lee.
Sun lights up the daytime, moon lights up the night.
At Brian Cox's insistence, he was fitted with a prosthetic nose and wig in order to resemble John Carpenter. I guess he took the term Halloween film a little too literally. All included, Sam was played by 3 performers, an 8-year-old stunt child, 4'8" stunt woman Susie Stingle, and 7-year-old actor Quinn Lord, who also had an unmasked cameo as the so-called Peeping Tommy. To create Sam's disembodied hand, a performer wore a green sleeve, which was later painted out, and rode a dolly across the floor. While initial designs for Sam were sketched out by Doherty, his unmasked face was conceptualized by Breen Burns around a baby skull covered in pumpkin skin, and Sam's face was brought to life via an animatronic head created by designer and puppeteer Bill Terazakis. Since Doherty is an avid movie fan, Trick or Treat contains a plethora of references. During the school bus flashback, a red car resembling a 1958 Plymouth Fury can be seen, a possible nod to John Carpenter's film Christine, based on the Stephen King novel. At the bonfire, a remix of Cry Little Sister can be heard in the background. The original version of the song was featured in the vampire flick The Lost Boys. While Mr. Krieg flips the channels, House on Haunted Hill and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island are briefly seen on TV, along with a voice cameo by James Marston.
Baked goods and crops were left out as offerings for the dead, a custom that is now known as trick-or-treating.
Christ.
Sam's cutting of Krieg's ankle was lifted from Pet Sematary. The shot of the gumball coming down the stairs is an homage to the ball scene from The Changeling, and the same camera operator allegedly filmed both shots. Mr. Krieg's line,
You gotta be f***ing kidding me.
is a direct reference to another John Carpenter film, The Thing.
You gotta be f***ing kidding.
And the 911 hold music is a piano cover of Can You Read My Mind, a tune from the Superman soundtrack.
Can you read my mind?
Trick or Treat made its premiere at Harry Knowles' Butt-Numb-a-thon on December 8, 2007, bringing this video's Predator count up to 2. Despite playing other festivals to critical acclaim, distributor Warner Bros. Pictures declined to give the film a theatrical release. Trick or Treat was released direct-to-video on October 6, 2009, garnering an immediate cult following. Sam would return in several short holiday promos for the digital cable network FearNet, and while a true cinematic sequel seems to be up in the air, a comic book sequel titled Trick or Treat: Days of the Dead was released in 2015. That's all for Trick or Treat, but I'd like to thank Dustin Campbell for requesting this video, and all of my other patrons for supporting my channel. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to check out my other videos.